Welcome to People Love Process. Believe it or not, the Polar Grid tool, you might not have ever heard of that, is over 2 decades old and has been in Illustrator for quite a long time now. But most designers don't know about it or how it works. So let's review its functionality and the controls and see what we can create utilizing that tool. Now, normally I don't focus so much on a tool specifically, but this one's a little different. So, where is it exactly? Well, I would challenge you to tell me without cheating or Googling or whatever like that. Just I want to see if you can find it in your first attempt because it took me a while. I haven't thought about this tool in a long time, but where it is located, and I'll show you. If you go over to Line Segment Tool, which is this, it's hidden in this submenu. So if we click and hold it all the way down in the little basement is the Polar Grid tool. It's all lonely, sitting there, doesn't get much love, so we're going to go ahead and utilize it in this movie. And before we jump into it, I want to explain the basics of how it works. So let's go ahead and pick a stroke size here. And if I just click and pull like this is what you're going to end up with by default is what you get. Now, the concentric elliptical shapes on the inside of this shape, and by the way, I'm not going to let go of my mouse button because as soon as I do, I won't be able to edit it. So that's one thing you have to keep in mind. So one hand is taken with the mouse, and if I want it to snap to a perfect proportion with my free hand, whether you're left-handed or right-handed, with your free hand, you want to hold shift down, and now you can size it proportionately and it won't distort it. But if that's no concern, you can let go of shift and do it however you want. But you have to do it like this with the free hand because you can't hold the shift. It's like playing Twister on your keyboard. You can't hold down the shift key. Man, I might have dated myself with that reference. Some of you are probably laughing because you get the reference. But if you're trying to hold the shift key down and use the arrow keys, well, those are a bit further apart unless you go to the part of the keyboard where they're right next to you, but still you're going to be doing two things with one hand. So in that respect, that shows the age of this tool because doing these type of things now, we have dynamic controls, and I'll show you and compare that in just a second. So what is this tool good for? Well, maybe you're doing, and I'm just pulling this out of my head, maybe you're doing an illustration of a stovetop, and this will be the stovetop heating elements or whatever. Or you're illustrating a grill from straight down, looking down at the grill top. Maybe this is the grill itself. Well, the concentric lines, the circular concentric lines, actually Illustrator calls those concentric dividers, and then the straight lines are called radial dividers. And to control them, you use the arrows on your keyboard. So if I go over to my keyboard and I use the side arrows and I go, the left arrow will remove the radial dividers, and you can remove them all the way like that, or the right arrow will add them. So let's say we want that, or we want to add one more, or we add 4, 5, 6, and etc. If you use the up arrow, it'll add more concentric lines so you can get as complex as you want, or you can remove them by using the down arrow, and then of course it simplifies. So that's how it works. Now, unlike other more dynamic tools, and this was released in the age before dynamic tools. So if I don't deselect it by letting go of the button on my mouse pad, I can keep editing this with the arrows by adding whatever. As soon as I release it, I lose that functionality. It's locked into whatever I had it set for. And whether or not it was aligned with the perfect ellipse by holding the shift key down. So once you let go of it, now we obviously have more updated modern shape tools. If we go to the star tool, for example, and we create a star out here, and you can use the arrow keys to add, more points to it like that. But if you let go of it, you still have these dynamic controls over here where we can edit how many stars we want in it, so on and so forth. Well, those controls aren't in the polar grid tool. It's the old method before dynamic controls were added to other shape tools. This one was all alone in the basement, never had those dynamic features added to it. So all this does is if we go to the appearance panel, it's just a group. So if we ungroup this and we go in here, we can select different elements, and you can see there's multiple groups on this, and there is a new feature in Illustrator called Ungroup All, so you can do that. And now if we go in here, you can see this is just made up of segments. So that's all it's doing, is it's aligning these, which are technically, they call it radial dividers, from the concentric dividers, which are the circles in here. So that's how it's constructing it. And it constructs it in a dynamic way, but you can't go back to it after you release it with your mouse. So that's how you can control it. Let's take another look at it. We'll go ahead, make sure we have this just to get that like this. So what could you create with this? Well, once again, if you want to control the concentric dividers, those are the up arrows. So maybe you add a few more in like this, and you go, that looks about right. And so maybe you're creating some graphic and it's for a radar screen. Well, there you go. Nothing gets faster than creating a radar screen than using polar grid. That's probably part of the reason why a lot of people have never heard of this or even used the tool or realize it was even in Illustrator. I don't know how often you're going to need a radar screen or even the term polar grid. Like if I select this and I recolor it, let's recolor it blue. I was wondering about the name, like polar grid. Well, where'd they get that from? Well, of sorts, I think the nomenclature behind the name they gave it is because this perspective kind of looks like you're looking straight down on the polar area of a globe, and then you have both the longitude and latitude type lines. And if you look at what is it? I can't remember now. The United Nations logo. They have a global kind of map in their emblem, and it's looking straight down like this. So that's just my guess. I don't know if that's why they called it polar grid, but it kind of makes sense if you think about it. So I don't know if there's any Adobe engineers who's actually knows. I'd be interested to know how'd you guys come up with the name, but that'd be my guess. And that is distinctly a guess. I don't know for sure, but it kind of makes sense. Now, the other thing, if you go to the polar grid tool and you select it, and if you just click once, oops, not like that. If you click once, it'll just bring up the tool options. Now, you can also bring up these tool options by obviously double clicking on the tool itself. And if you don't want to do it on the fly as you're using your mouse, or maybe you're using a Wacom, you can punch in the coordinates here. So if you want the concentric dividers, the elliptical shaped dividers, you can say, I think I want this at 6. And how many radial dividers, the lines going out from the center outwards, maybe you say, I want that to be 8. You can do this, and then you can click OK, and then that's what it will default to when you create your next graphic using those settings you punched in. So if that's how you prefer to do it, you can do it that way. Now, one thing I want to point out is we're going to go back into the settings here. Notice it has this create compound path from elliptical shapes. I'm going to show you that in just a second. So let me close this so I can create one shape. So we'll go ahead and create a shape here. I don't want that many, so we'll do that many concentric ones. And then on the radial dividers, I'm just going to remove them just to demonstrate something here. So we have that. And we'll just settle on that. Now I'm going to go back into the tool and I'm going to click on Create Compound Paths and click OK. Then I'm going to create the exact same shape over here. Might not be the exact same size, but it's the same type of shape with the same type of levels. Now, what's the difference between the two? Because this one we created before we turned on compound paths, this one we didn't. Well, if I select all of these, and let's say we don't want any outline, so we'll get rid of that, and I'm just going to color this red, this is what you're going to get. And if I go over here and I do the exact same thing where I get rid of this outline, go to fill and color it red, it's going to create somewhat of a Target logo. And you can see it probably took Target about that long to literally do the final art on the Target logo, even though theirs is just the first two here, not this outer one. But so if you need something, let's say you're illustrating a dartboard or you want a target or radiating shapes like this based off an elliptical shape, it's going to create a compound path if you choose that setting in the settings. But note this, it'll decide what's filled with the color you fill it with and what is just a gap, because all this is nothing. It's just a gap. So it's taken those shapes based off of how many you have, and it decides where the fill starts, where there's a gap, where's there's the fill, where's a gap, etc. And if you do odd or even numbers, that'll change. So if that's what you need, then by all means turn on the compound path here and make sure that this checked. If you don't care about that, then just uncheck it. And I just wanted to show you that because that's what that feature does. And sometimes if you're creating a shape like this, it's going to be really helpful. I've noticed using the polar grid tool, if I go back to it here, you can see we have the same amount of shapes, but let's go ahead and add more concentric shapes. So if I do this, oh, you know what? I turned off the compound. Let's turn that back on. Now let's redo it like this. So I have a lot more here. And so if I let go of it and I color these red, you can see how now the center is starting as a gap. And it's all depending upon how many shapes you have. It decides what gets a fill and what gets a gap. But you can see this is a lot faster, and look how clean it is. These are all perfect elliptical shapes. Now, if you started with just a single shape like this, and you would go to Object, Path, and go Offset, and you decide I want each offset to be 20 points. I'm working in points here. You could do this, but it's going to take that. You're not going to be able to really see what you're doing unless you change a color. And then you could repeat that offset at times based off of the shape. When it comes to elliptical shape, it's never really a problem. It's only when you have other shapes that Illustrator will start adding extra anchor points, and it's a lot slower. So you can see if you're not super picky about setting the specific tolerance in terms of your gaps or how thick everything is, it's a very quick way to create that kind of radiating graphic using Polar Grid. So in that respect, it's kind of helpful. So I just wanted to show you that. I just wanted to explain that and how you can control it again with the Polar Grid. One last time is when you create, and again, I forgot to turn off this is why by default, I usually have this off. I'm going to use this tool. Then again, I haven't used it in over a decade, so I forget a lot of this stuff until I use it again. So if I'm creating a shape like this, again, to control the concentric, that's the elliptical divider shapes, if you use the up key, up arrow key on your keyboard, it adds to it. If you use the down arrow key, it removes it. You can remove all of them, or you can decide how many you want. And if you use the side arrow key or the right arrow key, that is, it'll add those radial dividers in based off of how many you want, and that's how you control it. So what could we create? Well, that's going to be the next thing we're going to do. So let's go ahead and turn on this layer, and I'll do it here. And I'll go back to the polar grid tool. And by the way, if you create, I should point this out, Illustrator stops in terms of creating shapes. It starts in the top left-hand corner and goes down and to the right. And so if you hold the shift key down, it'll lock it into a perfect proportional shape, in this case an ellipse. If you don't, then it'll still start in the top left-hand corner and you can draw it out. So in this case, all I'm going to do is I'm going to remove these elliptical shapes because I don't want to keep it. And I'm going to distort it like this. I think that's fine. Oops, didn't mean to do that. Again, this is, if we go to appearance, it's just group. So I'm going to click into the group. So we're in isolation mode. I'll make a copy of this elliptical shape that's distorted on the outside. I'll paste it, and I'm just going to bring it down here. And I'm just using native tools in Illustrator. Then I'm just going to go ahead and create, just snap. I have Smart Guides turned on, Command U. So I'm just going to snap to the anchors on these elliptical shapes. I'll select the triangle and the elliptical shape below that I copied. I'll unite them with Pathfinder. Then I'm just going to go to the scissor tool, and I'm going to cut this corner and this corner because I don't want this straight one at the top like that. Then we'll go to the line segment tool. Then I'll snap here, and I'll bring this down right about there. I'll go over here, I'll snap the line segment tool over there. And then this one, I can just select the path that's already there and bring that down like that. So essentially I've made a pie chart. So again, there's going to be certain group elements, so we'll just ungroup it all. All of these are paths, so all I'm going to do now is go up to Object, go down to Path, and we're going to go to Outline Stroke. It turns into shapes. Now we're going to go and unite it like that. Now I'll go to Object, I'll go down to Compound, I'm going to go Release, deselect the outside shape. The interior shapes I'll just fill with white like that. And if I take this, I think I'm going to make this fatter like that. And now, essentially what we have here is a pie chart graphic. So if I go ahead and just color this, I'll make this the light side so that gets a tint of that same color on the base here. And then we'll go green, and this will be tinted. We'll go blue here, and the tint. By the way, any color that's a global color you can make a tint of. So remember, any color that has this white triangle in the bottom right hand color denotes a global color. So if I go into purple, you can see it's set for global. That's all it is. Get in the habit of using global colors, because if I ever want to change any color, you can just go to the color in the swatches panel, double click, edit it, and it'll change everything wherever it is in your file, whether it's a tint to that color or the color base, the base color itself. So this is one way you could use it. It doesn't have to just be a perfect elliptical shape. You could use it to create a diagram type of design like this, and it goes pretty quick. It'd be nice if you could do it without the gaps, you know, like, actually I didn't even think about that until I did this. So let's do this. I'm going to go back here. I'm going to try something. I don't think it's going to work, but we'll try it. Like this, and oops. I know it won't work with lines, so let's go in and see if it'd work with compounds. If it does, I'll be surprised. Like that. And I'm sure it's going to still be a group. Yep. So I'm just curious if it actually makes a complete shape here. And yeah, it doesn't. And this is still group. So, okay. So it doesn't, but that would be one way they could update it, where you could do, you could make the same divide, but just say no to adding a stroke weight. So there's no stroke weight and no color for a stroke, and just do fills. And it'd be cool if it just creates the fill shapes like that using the compound path method, kind of like what it does for targeting. So you could do more type of building because maybe you didn't want gaps or this to look like an outline of black with filled shapes color. So that's one thing you could do. Let's jump to another way how you could use this. And I'm always using plugins. So I'm going to go in and turn that back off on this. And we're going to create again. I don't want the radial dividers, so I'm going to get rid of those. I just want to do the concentric ones. And we'll do something like that. I think that's fine. And then I'm going to take this and I'm going to copy it and move it over here. And the reason why I'm showing you this is I always use plugins whenever I can, but let's beef this up a little bit. So let's go something like that. If I wanted to turn this into a teardrop shape, how would I do it? Well, I know how I do it 99.9% of the time, but natively in Illustrator, well, this is a circle. So Illustrator doesn't look at it anything but a circle. Right now it's grouped, so we can go ungroup all, and that way we can separate those. That's fine. So how would we do it? Well, I have Smart Guides turned on. So if I hover over an anchor point, Command U to make sure you have that turned on, hover over an anchor point or a path, that's going to tell me that. So you want to make sure to have Command U turned on. And then we could go to the square tool. A circle is a perfectly compatible shape with a square. So this is a perfect circle. It's not distorted. So I could start on this anchor, hold my shift key down and go until it snaps to the 9 o'clock position like this. And then I could select these two shapes, the outer circle and the square, and I could go unite. And now it's created somewhat of a teardrop shape. Now, if I copy this, Command C, Command F, if you're using the contextual menu, you can select the shape and click the duplicate button. I just don't have that turned on. So if we color it, all we've done is made a copy, colored it. You could take this now, and because it's still a proportionate, perfect square, even though it has 3/4 of it is rounded, we can just size this down and snap it there. Copy it again. So I made a clone of it and snap it there. And then copy it again, snap it there, kind of like that. Clone it again and snap it there. Then I can just select the perfect circles that we don't need, delete them, and that's how I would create a teardrop shape that's kind of like this. So how would I do that over here in a faster way? Well, this just demonstrates why I use plugins. The Dynamic Corners plugin by Astute Graphics, which is this one, it's awesome because it's a smart plugin, meaning, let's go ahead and ungroup this. So we'll go up here and ungroup it. If I select ungroup all, if I select this circle, It's smart enough to know that, yes, let's select the dynamic corners tool. It's smart enough to know, yes, this is a circle, but doesn't have to be, because it sees, yeah, I see this is circular, but we can pull it out like this. And so this is how I do it, that I'd never build with another shape like this. And then we can go, oops, forgot the middle one. Let's go back and we'll do that one as well, like that. And I get the exact same motif. So I just wanted to show you that on this one. I don't think I want that many. Let's go ahead and just center it to our artboard like this. We might even make it a little larger. Oops. Here we go. And what I do is, much like, it'd be nice with that target if there's some kind of setting on the compound so it doesn't put gaps. Like it creates this shape. Like if these two were made a shape, it would create this shape, but you wouldn't lose the copy of this shape. So it'd be smart enough to know that. This is easier shown than explained. So let me select this and copy it, Command-C, Command-F, and we'll just color this a different color. It's sitting on top of this one, so I'm going to just minus front using Pathfinder. And just for the sake of knowing what I'm doing, let's change it to a fill, no stroke, like that. So I'll cut it. I'll select these, paste behind, and we'll make another copy of this shape. So I'll do that. I'll bring this to the front. And we can go ahead and fill it if we want to, like this. Select this. And I'll go minus front on that one. In this case, we'll fill this one. Oops. Make sure we have fill selected. And I'll fill this one with orange. We'll fill this one with, I think we'll fill this one with red. Nah, we'll fill that one that way. There we go. These, copy, paste behind. This one in front, select this, minus front, and we'll color this one red, like that. It'd be cool if you could use Polar Grid, and this is one way they could update this tool, and it'd have some setting, I'm not sure what you'd call it, but it would allow you to create the division of shapes like this, and then it would build those shapes as compound paths. So you wouldn't have to manually do it like I just did. So this is one way you could use this tool, though. So I always try to figure out what would be some realistic type of workflow that I could use this for. Well, I could create a brand mark like this, almost like an Aaron Drapeland type of brand mark with the bands of color. And maybe this is part of the logo type for barbecue fire starters, the little fire brick things you throw in. I use way too many of those when it's like I never put a nice balance in there. I always put way too many, and then it gets like 700 degrees in my green egg. So yeah, I'm always learning how to cook better on the egg. Okay, so let's jump to one last thing. What could you possibly make with a character like this using the Polar Grid tool to create a graphic? Well, I don't know. Let's check it out. So let's go ahead and go to Graphic Styles. Make sure we have this outline. We go to the Polar Grid tool. And all I want to do is I want to create a graphic. So I'll go ahead, and by the way, I'm pulling from the right down, so you don't always have to go from the left. It just depends on what you want to create. And I don't want this many circles, so I'm going to go ahead and get rid of all of them except the primary one, and then I'm going to add the radial dividers. I always forget that name. It's just, I don't know. We're going to add 6 like this. That's fine. And then I think I want to beef this up, but first I don't need this one, and I don't need this one. I wonder if you can guess what I'm creating now. We're going to select this, go here, and I want to beef this up. So I'll beef this up so it's pretty thick, kind of like that. I think that looks good. And because it's outlines, we can go to path and we can go to outline stroke. Once it's turned into shapes, I can just hit unite. And notice how it adds these anchors here. This is one thing Illustrator does that's kind of frustrating because it should be smart enough to know that's a perfect circle. You don't need these anchors. But anyway, it's not a big deal. It's just kind of annoying. So if we do that, and then if we want to add a nice drop shadow, let's go ahead and do that. So we'll go style, we'll go drop shadow. And I think on the drop shadow, we want to change the color. I have a nice muted value based off of the background color. We'll add that in. So I think that looks pretty good. But maybe you want this white instead of being stark white. Maybe it's yellow. Yellow doesn't look that bad, but that's a little stark and saturated. So we're going to make it softer. So I'll go here, maybe 40. I think that looks groovy. So Polar Grid, a design friend of mine by the name of Brian, he's a teacher at Lewis and Clark College, over a decade ago told me I should look at the Polar Grid tool. I had heard that name, never used it, and I did. I played with it for a few minutes, but ultimately I never really adopted it into my workflow. Truth be told, the content I created for this movie was the first time in over a decade I've used it. So it doesn't get that much love in terms of tool popularity contests. It's all sad down in the lonely, basement of the line segment submenu. But that said, the concentric aspects to it produce, in my opinion, cleaner results than using offset path does. Now, when it comes to ellipse tool, I should say offset path's fine. It's only in other methods, much like the outline method and uniting that I showed you, where it adds, these extra anchor points, which it's not a big deal. It's just like it should be smart enough not to do that. Now, offset path is great because you can offset any path. But if you need to create a graphic utilizing concentric elliptical shapes, the Polar Grid tool is probably the one you want to use. It's going to make that process go a lot faster. So remember, the exercise files for each of the People of Process movies can always be accessed via a link in the description below each movie. And I hope you access those, especially on ones where I give away free assets in those files that normally I'm selling somewhere else. And the good thing is, if you are a member of the People of Process channel, you get access to all those resources for free. I send them directly to you whenever I create them. So recently, the most recent example of that is my beautiful decay spot texture brushes. I did a movie on this channel showcasing those. Each member of People of Process got that resource for free, and that's 114 brushes, and they can be used in Photoshop, Illustrator, Procreate, Clip Studio Pro, and Affinity Designer and Affinity Photo as well. So if you want to get access to those kind of resources, just become a member. You'll find that on the homepage of People of Process in the sub menu. You'll see a link to sign up to be a member. Thank you again for those who have become members. I appreciate it. And for those who just simply give my videos a like. It all helps, and I appreciate it a lot. Until next time, thank you for watching People of Process. And as always, I hope this content helps you improve your own creative process.